Bloodlines 2 is cooked. Worse, really, it's burnt. It is beyond burnt. Paradox wants to get out of the RPG business. If Bloodlines 2, God willing, is successful, Bloodlines 3 will be done by somebody else. Holy shit. Now, don't you worry, by the way. I think the odds of Bloodlines 2 being a success are not merely just long at this point, they're a steady orbit around the sun. So don't fear, I very much so doubt you're going to need to engage with that theoretical scenario, but the fact that Paradox, of all companies, are not only saying they're not doing a sequel, even if it is a success, but the fact that later on in the article, they even say that they don't want to do DLC. Oh, God. When Paradox, of all companies, with 2 $300 DLC packs, are telling you that they're not planning on making DLC for a game. Oh, Jesus. No matter how dark your estimates and expectations may be for Bloodlines 2, they are probably overly rosy compared to the reality. Oh, whoa. Okay then, let's have a quick read through this, shall we? It's been nearly a decade since Paradox Interactive acquired White Wolf from the World of Darkness, and nearly as long since it started working with Labs based on its pitch for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and oh boy, has it been a rough time, and oh god, yes. I mean, even the original pitch, which was a decent idea as well, has been violated now to the point of being virtually unrecognizable. After 4 years working in secret, Hardsuit and Paradox announced Bloodlines 2 in 2019. Oh god, it's been a while. We'd been playing it in 2020, the pair said, then it was delayed and delayed again. The 2020 target became 2021, then it was delayed indefinitely with Hardsuit given the boot. And rightfully so. Remember Paradox Con in Germany? I went to that shit show specifically because I looked like it. Right, Bloodlines 2, the sequel to perhaps the single greatest RPG ever. It looks like dog shit. I need to go there and see the gameplay for myself. Yeah, it was dog shit. It was absolute, unvarnished horse feces of the most fluid and disgusting form you could ever find. Like it's got half undigested piece of rocks and carrots bobbing in it still. It was bad. For a while, it seemed like cancellation was inevitable, and it probably should have been. And it did almost end up in the bin. If we hadn't found the Chinese room, Deputy CEO Matthias Lilliart tells me, and seen what they've done with the early work, cancellation would have been the next logical step because we could not continue as we did. Lilliart believes it's in a better place now, though it was recently struck with yet another delay. Pushing it out of 2024 and into the first half of 2025. Oof. It's been in development a very long time, but we are starting to see the game shape up to be something we think it will be a World of Darkness experience. Oh my god. Like, yeah, we've been working on this for absolute ages. We're beginning to see the rough outlines of something resembling a World of Darkness experience at this point. Oy, oy, oy. Strangely tepid praise. But also refreshing. The reason for this interview was not the usual marketing-driven fare, no big announcements, no hype, just a rather frank explanation about what's going on at Paradox, the reason why it's been struggling recently, and what it's doing to change its fortunes. But even with that in mind, there seems to be a bit of nerves about how Bloodlines 2 will ultimately be received, and it's not something that Paradox wants to go through again. So, Paradox, of course, has been going through some rather rough times recently. Their various attempts to create, well, anything, like League of the Lamplighters, for example, have been enormous failures. The DLC policy has been repeatedly and very angerously critiqued. The Europa Universalis DLC in particular hasn't had a mixed review rating for like the last 7 releases, all being mostly or overwhelmingly negative. Paradox is not in a very good spot at the moment. It is not in our strategic direction to make this kind of game. So if Bloodlines 2, God willing, is successful, Bloodlines 3 will be done by someone else on the license from us. I would say it's the sort of strategic way this would work, so it's still an outlier from what we're supposed to do. We don't know that stuff, so we should probably let other people do it. As Paradox has been trying to experiment with various other genres and branches, as they've been picking up a lot of developers and a lot of people releasing games. The problem is, they've almost never actually managed to found anyone particularly worthwhile. I mean, and even then, Paradox tends to double down on failure rather than success. The Mech Warrior game, for example, the strategy, the Battletech game, that was actually rather good and should have been followed up on aggressively, and yet nothing whatsoever. Like the new Europa Universalis game, there's a golden opportunity, or to do any other form of new grand strategy, rather than merely simply releasing yet another DLC pack for Stellaris, or what was this one? Götterdämmerung for Hearts of Iron 4? Like, really? Another focus tree that introduces what? Secret weapons? There are already mods that do that, you lazy shits. Paradox has its own small-scale experimental lab, Paradox Arc, where it can try different things, but big RPG doesn't remotely fit that. It would have to be something very different, says Lilia, like a classical RPG, but even that's a big investment, and nowadays expectations are higher than ever thanks to Baldur's Gate 3. So regardless of outcome, he says, Bloodlines is a dead end. Holy shit. I just want to point out here, this is Paradox during its more innovative phase, where it was spreading out and trying new things. And even then, with one of the best RPG licenses they could ever possibly imagine in their hands, pure unadulterated gold, right? Hell, even merely just a remake of Bloodlines 1 would print money like mad. And they are calling it a dead end. And again, worse still, as for the future of Bloodlines 2 specifically, we don't drop games. Yes, you do. We make sure they work. No, you don't. Europa Universalis can certainly attest to that. We make sure they fulfill the promise they have. The rest is very much up to the players, so you can expect the usual slate of updates and fixes, but DLC? Why wouldn't hold your breath? Again, Paradox is telling you that they're not going to be making a DLC for one of their video games. In fact, they are basically going, okay, it's gonna have a workshop, please fix it, maybe? Oh god. This is gonna be a Starfield. This might actually be worse than a Starfield. This might be a studio ender right here, quite potentially. Paradox's reputation has already been rather weak, especially after Imperator Rome, for example, which was an unadulterated flop on every level, and even when they tried to fix it, they couldn't. They didn't manage to. They couldn't fix it fully, and it died. It whimpered, and it expired. And Victoria 3 is not doing a whole lot better. The latest DLC has at least seen it gain some better reviews, but it too, in all due likelihood, was probably a pretty hefty logistical and economical flop, particularly considering the expectations that Victoria 2 no doubt set at the studio, being a game that they made even though they were like, oh god, this will never earn a profit. And it did. It became a major success for them, because they actually made the grand strategy game their consumers wanted, goddammit. I think some studios do strategic investment, long-term things, because they feel that the cost of not doing it is too high. But I mean, I think it's fair to declare, at least to me, and I think to you too, even in the best of cases, Bloodlines does not have a super long shelf life. That's not the way these games behave. You have an influx of players, there's a bit of word of mouth, and they have a high peak and then they trail off. It is not the type of game that develops over time that much, so I think that's part of why these types of games are not really that attractive to us. Are you kidding me? Like, here's the thing. If you really wanted to, you could absolutely make an episodic World of Darkness game. All you really need to do is release expansion packs to it, and release adventures, release quests. Holy shit, like, you believe that releasing a $20 DLC pack that adds clothing to Crusader Kings 3, that's fine, you can do that, that's not a problem. Or a $20 pack that adds in Uno new mechanic of note, that's fine. But story DLC for a video game, for an RPG, oh, well, that's just impossible. Hey. Yet, it was the persistence of Bloodlines fans that inspired the sequel 10 to 20 years after the original. Better supported RPGs, meanwhile, can keep going year after year, as evidenced by the incredible long life of Bethesda's RPGs. Oh yeah, well, yeah, no, that's a pretty good example as well. Or Baldur's Gate, which got a remaster, and mods, and additional companions, and everything, like, God. I do not believe for a single solitary second that Paradox, the kings of bloodthirsty DLC policy, cannot see some way to milk Bloodlines. However, I can very much so see a way that they don't think they can milk this Bloodlines. I can absolutely see a way that a company can look at this and think to themselves, yeah, this is a rock, and we are not squeezing any more blood out of it, no matter how hard we might press. Bloodlines 2 is going to be a failure of remarkable proportions. It is going to be gaming's Joker 2. It is going to be a beloved game that was absolutely amazing, an experience everyone should have at one point in their lives, and now we are going to bend it over a barrel, we are going to brutalize it, we are going to ass rape it in every way ever invented by man or beasts, and we're going to try and sell it to you. But at least they have the decency to not plan to sell it to you twice. I abandon all hope, ye fools. Flee now. Have a good day.